So in this segment, we're going to be talking about Tobias Elwood, who's caused a bit of a stir by saying we should rejoin the EU single market to ease the cost of living. Again, it's gonna make some difference. It's gonna help with exports a lot, but in terms of imports, it's not going to help a ton. I suppose customs fees are the main problem. I think there'll still be, physical checks, as in the checks of paperwork, etc. So I don't think rejoining the single market will actually make a ton of difference for the UK. I could be wrong on that one, but rejoining the customs union would make a big difference rather than just the single market. But again, I have to stress, just like many people said, one does not simply join the single market or the customs union. Customs union's a bit easier, but for the single market, would have to join EFTA, the Economic Free Trade Area, which Norway have said that's not going to happen, bud. And so if we can't join EFTA, despite what the statements that other commentators have made, not going to name them, thinking we'll get a bespoke deal, that probably won't happen. Let's be honest here. So Tobias Elwood said that radical thinking was needed to tackle the rising inflation, even if it meant accepting EU regulations and freedom of movement. Now, of course, there's the four pillars of the single market: free movement of goods, services, capital, and people. And of course, the Brexit vote was one on controlling immigration. Also, the fact that if we did rejoin the single market, by some miracle, we'd also have to pay into the EU's budget as well, which would cost a significant amount. The MP, who has been a vocal critic of Johnson, said politicians must dare to assess how Brexit, the biggest geopolitical decision in a generation. And he's right, it was a huge decision. How is it going? Not very good. We do need freedom of movement as well to help deal with the staff shortages we have in the UK. Record unemployment, but also record vacancies. In an article published by the Politics Home website, Mr. Elwood said that the decision to leave the single market was not on the ballot paper. To be fair, in my opinion, I think even though Brexiteers argued otherwise, I think when they said leave the EU, there was no leave the EU and join EFTA, for example. There was none of that. So to argue that, leaving the single market wasn't on the table, I disagree with that. It has had adverse consequences, including a £20 billion fall in exports and difficulty on the Irish border. When people said that, though, people told you there are going to be problems when it comes to trade, and there's going to be the Irish border question will arise again. And what did Brexit say? Oh, we can use technology to solve it. They also said that if the Irish or the EU want to put up a hard border, that's their prerogative. We're not going to do that. Remember, they're still saying that now. He's saying, in a nutshell, all these challenges would disappear. That's not true, though. We'd still face, customs problems, etc. That's, the argument that, everything will change if we join the single market is simply not true. It's not a magic bullet for us. It will give us regulatory alignment, which will help when it comes to exports. But there are still trade borders between the EU and Switzerland, and still trade borders between the EU and Norway, for example. There are still trade checks, etc. It's not a smooth border. In a nutshell, all of these challenges will disappear if we dare advance our Brexit model by rejoining the EU single market. The Norway model, again, they wouldn't disappear, though, because there still would be customs checks in the Irish Sea, and there still would be customs checks for imports and exports of British goods. So it's simply not the case. It's not, he doesn't know what the Norway model actually means. That's a big problem. That's a big problem for us. Mr. Elwood said that plan would require acceptance of some EU regulations. It would be all EU regulations, pretty much. That relate to goods and services. It won't be some, it'll be all of them, and we won't have a say over it either. Would be what the Brexiteers feared: rule takers, not rule makers. Remember they kept saying that when the thought of joining the single market kept happening with May's deal. Businesses would be better off working with one common standard rather than having following two. But the thing is, though, because the EU's our biggest market, if you're an exporting company, you're still going to follow the EU rules. It doesn't matter. That's another thing. But simple fact that he's right, though, we'd be better off following two. But given how big the EU market is, most businesses, especially medium and bigger ones, would be following EU standards. There remains understandable reservations about free movement of people, and again, we are facing record vacancies. There are shortages across all of the different industries. We need freedom of movement for people and expertise. That's the top and bottom of it, really. In relation to benefits claims that would need addressing, that was already addressed back in 2015, where you'd have to be a resident, I think, in the UK before you can claim benefits if you're an EU citizen. And let's not forget that the EU rules do allow that if certain people do not find work in the EU country they have moved to using freedom of movement, they can be deported back to that country. Belgium are notorious for it, that they expect you to declare residency if you're intending to live there, and if you don't find a job or if you can't support yourself, they can deport you. Freedom of movement doesn't mean you can sit in another EU country and just claim welfare. It doesn't work like that. So it's already been addressed, my friend. Let's not forget both Winston Churchill and Thatcher endorsed this model, the single market. I mean, did they? I know Thatcher did. She played a key role in the creation of the single market. But I thought Churchill's vision was that the UK wouldn't join it because we'd be cool, we'd be outside, we'd have the empire. If joining the single market with conditions, like what conditions can you have? You're either in or you're out, bud. You can't add conditions. Results in strengthening our economy, easing the cost of living concern, settling the Irish problem, which again it won't, not fully. It will make it a lot easier though, a lot easier. At a stroke, again, it will help in a lot of these areas, but it won't solve everything. That's a key problem. Simon Clarke, the chief executive to the Treasury, said he was pleased to reassure Mr. Elwood that his plan would not be happening, adding single market membership would extinguish half the freedoms that make Brexit so important. I mean, the freedom to have long queues at Dover, the freedom to have massive shortages across multiple different industries, the freedom to have food prices go up by 6%, the freedom to have our economy do really badly. Those are great freedoms, my friend. And Boris is the principal reason we were able to escape it. And do what? Escape and do what? Out of the frying pan into the fire. That's where we are right now, and boy, are we burning up quick. That Anglo-Saxon skin does not last long in the heat. Oh, that's all I'm gonna say. But sorry, I was gonna make more jokes about the sun and skin, but I'm not gonna do that. You've got Tom Tug on my hat saying Tobias is wrong. The single market puts the EU in charge. EU rules, open borders, not true again. It's freedom of movement, not open borders. No new trade deals, which again is not true. Norway does have its own trade deals, but because it's outside the EU's customs union. So again, he's wrong on 2 out of 3, saying we need a deal British people control, not foreign laws with no say. Let's plan for the future and stop looking back. This decision is made. We're allowed to U-turn decisions. Marriage isn't forever. So just because we've left the EU doesn't mean we can't rejoin parts of it. It just depends on what we're trying to rejoin. That's a key problem. And you've got this gentleman here saying, Mark Harper saying, the UK voted to leave the EU. That meant leaving the single market. And let's not forget here, you had these three. I'd vote to stay in the single market. I'm in favour of the single market. I want us to be able to trade freely with our European friends and partners. That's Boris Johnson. You've got this man, the disgraced Owen Paterson, because only a madman would actually leave the market, the single market. Absolutely nobody is talking about threatening our place in the single market. So it's not actually true from Mark Harper and Tom Tug on his hat. But, that's a person that wants to be Tory leader. It's not going to happen for Tom. Tobias Elwood, I think he's another one who sees himself as a potential leadership candidate as well, which I think that's why he's trying to differentiate himself. But I don't think it's going to work. But yeah, anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.